Caxton Way, then take the first right.
Hello. You join me in Hull. Where I've just completed my first delivery of the day. And I've got 2 more. And the next one,
Right onto Wine Way, then head to the roundabout.
thank you. The next one is in Grimsby, which means we're going over the Humber Bridge. Which is a special treat because this might not be the nicest part of the world, or, well, each to their own. The Humber Bridge is a fantastic bridge.
At the roundabout, take the second exit to Monks Way West.
And I like good bridges. So I've already been over the bridge once today on the way up here. It was actually very busy. I was in stationary traffic going over the bridge, so I was sort of stuck mid-span, which was great because it allowed me to take in the views. Well, actually, it's one of those days where it's so sunny and nice that you've got this sort of heat haze and you can't necessarily see that far, but it's lovely. Well, the Humber Estuary.
Take the second exit to E1231.
Thank you. The Humber Estuary is one of those bodies of water that's just brown all the time. I assume it's because it's, I don't know, is it shallow? I don't really know. Like mud flats. It's a shame because there's nothing nicer when the sun's out than a glistening
At the roundabout, take the third exit to E63.
blue body of water. Use your indicator, mate. He is using it, but he's using it wrong. Whatever. So it's a double Humber Bridge day because I'm going to go back down to Grimsby. Actually, will my sat nav send me back over it again? Because I've then got to go up to near York. I don't think it will send me that way actually, that wouldn't make sense. It'll be the M180. to the A1. I don't know, we'll see. So this is the third truck vlog on my channel. Somebody asked me the other day, what makes you decide when you film? And the answer is simply when I feel like it. And I felt like it this morning because it's beautiful weather and we're going over that lovely bridge. So that's two good reasons. She was on her phone. She's also got what looks like a broken hand. What's she doing? She's doing all her admin. Okay. So she's got a broken hand in plaster and she's on her phone, but other than that, perfectly fine to drive.
Take the exit on the left toward A164, then head to the roundabout.
There we go, we've got that wonderful view of the magnificent suspension bridge. Quite noteworthy, I think, at its time of opening. It was it the longest span suspension bridge in Europe, something like that? I don't know. It's good anyway. Oh, running away today. So I'm back in a DAF. I'm in a DAF XF. Like the XG I was in the last video, but slightly smaller cab.
Take the third exit to E50.
But my company's XFs are slightly higher spec than the XGs, so I've got a sunroof which isn't open. In fact, I've not even got the blind open, so that's a faux pas, isn't it, on a day like today? It's got fog lights, a couple of other little bits and bobs. I don't need to be in this lane, do I? Not. Tanker's in a hurry. I've got a theory that your opinion.
Take the third exit to E50.
It's sat now from nowhere we're going. I've got a theory that your opinion of a place that you go to that's new to you is based on what the weather is like on the day that you go. Because everywhere looks nice in the sunshine, doesn't it? And everywhere looks rotten in the rain. Most places. Well, not the rain, but in the grey, low light conditions. Everywhere looks a bit grotty. I have to say, this particular truck feels a bit sluggish today. I don't really know why. I've not got that much weight on, and I've just unloaded 7 pallets. I think I only had 15 in total. I've just unloaded 7. So I've only got 8 on, and it still feels a bit bogged down. It's odd.
Keep right on A15.
Right. This is where we go through the toll booth. We'll go on account, but I don't have an automatic tag. It's done on, I don't quite understand, but I think it's done on number plate recognition. So but when I came over the first time, I had to speak to the lady. She gave me a piece of paper. Morning. On account, please. On account. Lovely. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye. Right, so we have a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit across the bridge. Quite interesting about this going over in a high vehicle like this is that the parapet's actually quite low. So the vehicle deck is raised above. There's a pedestrian deck down there to the left. So you're raised above that. So you're above that outer parapet. And there's a little parapet, sort of look like stretched cables. On the side of the road deck there. It doesn't feel high. It feels like you could go over it. I mean, I know when there are high winds, it's close to high-sided vehicles. And I have actually seen videos of trucks being blown on this bridge and you know, sort of almost toppling over. And it does not look like fun at all. There we go, past the midpoint. A nice little 43 miles an hour. We're in no rush, taking in the views. The sort of glistening water, the glistening brown water, if you can have glistening brown. I suppose it makes it a sort of bronze colour. So I had an interesting few days, 2 very long days, and both of those days were in a Renault. I was in a Renault again. That particular truck felt a lot nicer than the Renault I was in a couple of weeks ago. Every truck feels different, it's strange. So I've had a nice couple of days in that. But coming back into this DAF, I just had not problems, but I was getting it a bit wrong reversing onto the bay. The reason being, the Renaults have very, very fast steering. So when you're manoeuvring, you can make lots of adjustments very quickly and easily, you know, small turns of the wheel. And you can make adjustments. Whereas this DAF is just, these DAFs are just not like that at all. So having spent 2 days in the Renaults, if I get jumping back into the DAF, even though I drive them most of the time, my steering inputs were wrong. But that fast steering on the Renault makes it quite twitchy on the road. So on the road, the DAF is much nicer. In that respect, it just feels a lot steadier. It's a small turn of the wheel isn't going to sort of send you flying all over the place. But those Renaults with the fast steering are very easy to manoeuvre, and I mean, you can get yourself in a pickle, I suppose, if you're not used to it, because it will turn quicker than you think, and you find yourself oversteering. Not oversteering in the sense of getting your back end round corners. I mean oversteering as in literally too much steering, too much bend on your trailer. But yeah, for whatever reason, getting onto the bay at my last drop, I was I was getting it slightly wrong. So there we go. So that was a supermarket distribution centre that I was going to before. My next stop is a food manufacturing place where I will have some frozen vegetables for them. Everything's frozen again today. These new generation DAFs are very good all-round trucks. They do everything quite well. Police motorcyclist and police motorcyclist trainer. It's interesting. They got a lick on as well. It felt like it. Yes, they do everything quite well. They're comfortable. The dashboard and the switch gear and the whole cockpit is laid out quite well. Do they excel at anything? I don't know. I mean, the touchscreen interface is quite good. It's got Apple CarPlay. That's pretty good. Works quite well. The climate system on it, it's really simple and easy to use, but I tend to find it, sometimes you find yourself either too hot or too cold. I think it's always a problem trying to heat or cool a truck cab because it's quite a large space. But I find, yeah, it's sometimes you can sort of yo-yo between being too hot and too cold. But I think my biggest bugbear with these trucks actually is the speed limiter doesn't seem to automatically bring in the retarder or the auxiliary brake. For those of you who aren't truckers, trucks have an auxiliary brake which can control. Well, there's different types. And that activates. I mean, it's different on different trucks. You've got retarders, intarders. They're devices that slow the truck down on the gearbox. But at the same time, it will also shift it down a gear or a couple of gears to utilise engine braking. And in some cases, there'll be an exhaust brake as well, which is some trucks will have a separate exhaust brake, which will be operating with your left foot, for example. And what you use that for, what you use any of the auxiliary brake or the exhaust brake for, is sort of gently slowing you down as you're coming up to, say, a roundabout, or if you're going down a hill and you're gaining too much speed, you need to control your speed. And you have different settings for it, so different stages of auxiliary brake. So I think on this truck it does use a retarder and engine braking. But what this truck doesn't seem to do, unless I'm missing a trick somewhere, is automatically bring in the engine, the auxiliary braking when you've got the speed limiter set, and the speed limiter only seems to work like that in a car, where it sort of caps out your engine revs to stop you exceeding the speed. But that doesn't help you when you're rolling down a hill and you're gaining speed. Let me tell you, you gain it quite quickly in these trucks, especially if you're full. If you've got a full load, the truck can run away with you, which is why these auxiliary braking systems are quite important. So I use the speed limiter quite a lot, and cruise control as well, to be fair. But neither system in this truck seems to use the auxiliary brake to control your speed when you're gaining it downhill. It just doesn't do it automatically, with the exception of, I believe, when you're using the radar guided cruise control and it senses that you're behind something and wants to slow you down, then it will engage it. So I don't know. Anyway, that's the net result of that, is that I find myself in these new gen DAFs having to constantly clip my speed using the auxiliary brake, manually using the auxiliary brake. Which then, if you're on cruise control, will reset the cruise control. It'll throw it off. So if you're in a particularly rolling section of road, it can be forever auxiliary brake, set cruise, auxiliary brake, set cruise, and trying to manage that and trying to calculate it. There's an auxiliary brake going on now, because I'm just a third of a mile from the roundabout where we get on the A180 towards Grimsby. You might be able to hear the engine revs there, I'm not sure. So there we go, it's just gently slowing me down as I'm coming up to the roundabout. I will use my service brakes as well. One of the main reasons for auxiliary brakes in trucks, or a reason, is to save you on your brakes, so you're not getting through your brake pads so quickly. Because these trucks have big brakes, big brake pads, expensive. Amazing braking systems on these trucks as well. You know, yesterday one of my loads, I was fully loaded. I would be getting towards the gross limit of 44 tons, and even with that on, they'll bring you to a lovely stop. Very good brakes. There we go, I was going down a slight incline there, and I had to use the auxiliary brake to bring me right down. Now you might think, why is all this braking so important? So on a road like this, a dual carriageway, cars are limited to 70 miles per hour. Trucks to 60, unless otherwise indicated. And our speed limit is 56. So you've got a 4 mile per hour leeway there. However, the tachograph registers overspeeds. Now, I don't mean if it goes over 60, it registers an overspeed, nor if it goes over 56. However, if it goes over 56, or the calibrated limiter, speed, and remains over for, I believe it's 30 seconds, it flashes up a warning, and you have, I think, an amount of time to then bring the speed back down again. I think if you don't, you get an infringement. For those who aren't aware, au fait with road transport parlance, an infringement is it's a slap on the wrist when you've done something either not necessarily naughty, but you've fallen outside of the rules for whatever reason. And I suppose, there are many reasons you can get infringements, driving infringements. Usually it's to do with hours on your tachograph. And as I'm sure all of you will know, there's a lot of rules we have to adhere to. How long we can work at any given time, how long we can drive at any given time, and within a day, within a week, how long our rest needs to be, and so on and so forth. And you have to know all these rules. The digital tachographs help you out a bit, but sometimes they can trip you up for reasons that are too boring to go into. So you have to have an awareness as well. So as it stands at the moment, in terms of my brakes, there are two things I need to watch out for this morning. So number one is I started at 6. So after 6 hours, or before 6 hours, I need to be starting a break of, well, at least 15 minutes. It's actually half an hour, but if I take 15 minutes, I can then take another 15 within the next few hours. But that's overall work. So since I clocked in, except minus any time that I'm under POA, period of availability, which is one of the tachograph modes, but anyway, it's by the by. Another thing I need to watch out is my driving time. So these are one of the key rules we have to work to. After 4.5 hours driving, 4 hours 30 minutes, or before you reach that time, you have to take a 45-minute break. Now, my dashboard here tells me, and this thing is quite reliable, I've got 1 hour and 44 left of my 4.5 hours. But I don't need to take a 45 because I've already taken a 15. Taking a 15-minute break, which means I can take another half-hour break, and that will reset my driving time back to 4.5 hours. So you can take a 15 and a 30. Weirdly, you can't take a 30 and a 15. If you take a 30, your next break would still have to be 30. In fact, if you took a 44-minute break, your next break would still have to be 30 to count as 45 minutes. It's just the rules. And actually, that inflexibility does create a unique set of challenges for professional drivers, as I'm sure you can imagine. Well, that's just one of the sets of rules that we have to abide by. So in terms of infringements, an infringement is when you are deemed to have infringed, so not adhered to one of these rules. But sometimes it can be classed as you are a naughty boy. But very often it's a, hang on, I can explain. A good example of that would be if you're stuck in a traffic jam and your time runs out, you can't pull over. Well, it's not just a traffic jam. If all the lay-bys are full or whatever, if there's nowhere safe to stop. I mean, drivers who drive in central London, they have a real challenge with this because there is literally nowhere to stop. So you almost feel in that case they should work actually to a separate set of rules, but so yes, a good example is traffic, your driving hours have run out, you go over, you stop at the next safe place, and that will show as an infringement. So you've exceeded your driving hours, or you've not taken sufficient rest for the end of your driving hours. And you would explain that to your transport manager, sign a thing, yes, okay. You might think it's easy to avoid infringements, but I suppose the more you drive, the more smart you get, but or streetwise, or you know, you have a better understanding. Because let me tell you, when you first start driving, you learn all these rules, you know them like the back of your hand for your theory test and so on and so forth. But then you actually get in a truck doing jobs, and you've got a lot of other things in your mind, and things don't necessarily work in the way you expect that they work. And so you find yourself getting caught out, but as with anything, the key is you learn from those things, and they help you avoid them in the future. But some can't be avoided. I got an infringement a few. It was actually a little while. In fact, it was a little while ago. I was running out of driving time. Well, it wasn't actually driving time. I think it was working time. And I was on the M6 around the West. Around the West Midlands, and I got stuck in stationary traffic. Just gone past the exit to Hilton Park Services, so I went over my hour. My hours were running out, and in desperation, I dived off into Walsall, the town of Walsall, thinking, well, I'll just find somewhere. I could not find anywhere. Worse than that, it was all double red lines, which is it's not only no parking, it's no stopping. Came out of Walsall, went to Wednesbury, and I was just sort of driving, just trying to find somewhere, anywhere to pull over. I eventually parked on a residential road, and it was far from ideal. It was safe, it was okay, I wasn't interfering with anybody, it was not a problem, but it was just not the kind of place you'd choose at all. But that's what I had to do, and I'd gone over my hours by something like 10 minutes. That was it. It was absolutely unavoidable. That was the first place I could find, and even that wasn't ideal. So we're nearly here. So the place I'm delivering to is just west of Grimsby. You can see the town in the distance there.
At the roundabout, take the first exit to Euro Park.
There's a distinctive tower which I think is to do with the fish market. It's Grimsby, it's going to be something to do with fish, isn't it?
At the roundabout, take the second exit to Euro Park Way.
So I'm going to pretty much leave it at that for today. We've had a nice little ride over the Humber Bridge.
At the roundabout, take the first exit to Genesis Way.
Yes, thank you. It's a slightly convoluted place to deliver to, this one. I have to sort of go past it, turn around, then reverse into the site, and then either reverse onto their bay,
Turn
or
left onto Pegasus Way.
sometimes they unload me with a forklift. It depends how they feel. First I have to pull up and tell them that I'm here. So thank you for joining me. Please like and subscribe, comment, and tell me what you like or don't like about this video.
Arriving at DN 3790S on the left.
Or what you'd like to see in the future. I'm going to go and see a man about a dog, and I'll speak to you again soon. Take care. Hello, it's me from the future. Instead of leaving it there, I've included footage of my trip to my final drop of the day in rural North Yorkshire, in between Howden and York, in which I go over a Grade 2 listed bridge and I take a detour, accidentally, to a random farm. But before then, just watch this as I try to get into the site in Grimsby. Pay attention to this blue curtain side of lorry who was waiting to go on the same side, decided to park blocking the whole road and the entrance exit to the sides opposite. I got in a bit of a hump when I had the audacity to ask him to move.